The year is 1808. France has officially invaded Spain, resulting in a 7-year bloody war, known as the Peninsular War. During this time period, an artist by the name of Francisco de Goya tried to keep neutral during the conflict, even though he did swing towards liberalism. After these gruesome conflicts ended, Goya started to make two paintings known as the 2nd and 3rd of May. These two companion pieces are based off of Goya's accounts of the Spanish rebellion of the French occupation. The 2nd of May paints a very chaotic picture, the French soldiers sitting on their horses striking civilians down. It paints a pretty heroic picture of the civilians. However, I find the 3rd of May to be very disturbing. Instead of featuring heroic civilians, we see a terrified group of men being executed by French guards. You can very clearly see the fear in the men's eyes. Some of them are even huddling together and clutching their faces to avoid looking at their upcoming fate. When people think of Goya, they usually talk about his most horrific paintings at the end of his life. Although they are great and very macabre in a way, I find his disasters of war etchings to be even more horrifying. These etchings, I think, fully encapsulate the toll that war takes better than most paintings that I've seen. A lot of paintings around the time shows the focus on the glory of battle and heroism, but Goya shows a more realistic depiction of war. Most historians view these 82 engravings as a form of protest to the violence. On plate 34, we can see a Spanish priest clutching to a cross as he was executed for his crime of having a knife. I don't think Goya was really fond of the violence coming from either sides, as we see plate 3, a crazed Spanish civilian taking up an axe to fight French soldiers. Things like this really hammer home the horror behind the Peninsular War. The fact that an ordinary civilian who probably just lived a normal life up to this point could turn around into a maddened killer like this is disturbing to say the least. Some of the etchings portray what it's like to lose yourself to war and succumbing to primal instincts after gaining power. This is one depressing set of etchings. It really doesn't stray away from the worst aspects of war and human nature. Oftentimes, people will talk about the troops that struggle the most during the war, but oftentimes forget about the civilians living under that time period. The disasters of war also aren't afraid to go into more surreal aspects of that time period, with plate 13, 76, and 74 featuring grotesque monstrosities. I'm not sure what these are supposed to represent, but they do add to the madness of the collections. Plates like these were probably pretty important to developing his later styles of the black paintings. Aside from the content itself being nightmarish, I think that the way it's drawn is also scary. The scratchy looking line quality helps drive forward the sense of anxiety, and the backgrounds being these muddled grays with hatching add an oppressive element to the etchings. I'd like to close this video off with one last etching entitled "Truth Has Died," which is plate numbered 79. This one really encapsulated a lot of the themes present throughout the disasters of war. It's pretty obvious what this is supposed to represent, but I think this piece of art really goes beyond. I think this piece of art really transcends a lot of the conversation on war and instead focuses on human nature. What Goya has shown here in this series of etchings is the truth about war and people. But most of it is an ugly truth. During the time he was making these, he did not publish them. They weren't released until after his death. A lot of his career was built around serving those in power, but by the end of it he seemed disillusioned by it all. So he took his talents and tried to share the truth through his art. This is something I imagine, if it was published while he was alive, would have caused more outrage than he normally would. Thankfully, we have all 82 of these harrowing illustrations today to give us the idea of what war is like, and a warning to the potential darkness that lies in every man's heart. If you would like to support me, I have a Redbubble link down in the description and bio. Also, I have social media pages on Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, Kara, and much more. Thanks for watching.